Mr. Copeland. Darren, do you want to come in and join us? You got a snappy-looking swetter on there.
Always,
Come on,
always.
come on, Darren.
Snappy-looking sweater.
Looking good, man.
I know, everyone seems so down and upset just because
You're
the
not
Broncos.
worried?
Of course I'm worried. Of course I'm worried. I'm not, I'm worried because I haven't got all my Christmas shopping done. I'm worried because, I got, so. Yeah. No, but, it's one of those things where I think in this case, you can look at it half full or you can look at it half empty.
That's true.
Half empty, they lost the game. They needed to win, but they still have a good shot. They got to beat, the Raiders have been playing much better, but they are definitely, a beatable team. And if they win that game and they take care of business at home, which they're very good at doing, then, they get the first round bye and they're in the same position they were before the Cincinnati game now. Sometimes I think this team, they talk about being a strong team and are being a physical team. And some of that is just imposing your will. And I think sometimes Peyton Manning gets a little too cute and gets a little bit too, wants to change this and change that. And it's a fine line between being a wily player and being Wile E. Coyote in some of these sort of instances where, he was, they were fooling him. And that's what the big deficit happened was because they were making him be too cute with the offense. And I think that's a problem that they got to solve. And sometimes they just got to go out and just, John Elway, would change plays.
True.
But more than often they would script their first 15 and they would just go with them. So sometimes you have to do that.
Kind of get in that groove before getting too fancy with it. They seem like they get a lot of pressure on him too.
Yeah.
More than I expected. I knew they were good, but more than I expected.
Well, on the right side or the left side for the Bengals, the right side for the Broncos is a problem. The good news is there's not a lot of teams in the NFL that have an outside rusher with the speed that the Bengals do on the outside. But, it's definitely concerning. But we knew the offensive line was concerning when they decided to switch it up, 4 or 5 weeks ago. We've just sort of thought it was fixed. But,
maybe now with a better team, it's showing some of the deficit there.
One huge concern that I saw last night was, they gave up 207 yards on the ground. They only came into this game only giving up 72 per game, which is the second best in the NFL. I mean, what was the problem last night? Was it the defensive line? Was it the linebacker play? They had a couple of injuries there. So
I think the biggest problem is tackling, and sometimes tackling's hard. You got to wrap tackle. That 85-yard touchdown by the Bengals should have been a tackle for loss.
Yeah.
There were a lot of places where one guy can make a tackle, he just doesn't make it. That happens sometimes, but I don't think that the defense is necessarily need to worry. Obviously, having both our middle linebackers out is a concern, but I'm not too concerned about that. I think you make a few tackles here and there, and I don't see 200 yards rushing. The other part about this is the Bengals are a good team. They're fighting for the playoffs. They got guys that make a lot of money too. They needed to win this game much more than the Broncos did. The Broncos said the right things, but sometimes you just run into that sort of team.
And they may have had to, prove a little something to the Bengals fans because they had gotten destroyed in prime time.
Right.
They had not beat Peyton before, so they had that hanging over there. So let's do this. And they took care of it.
Yeah, you got to give them credit. Sometimes, a team comes out there. This is a secondary for the Bengals that had been known as playmakers, but not necessarily solid players. And they came out and they did what they wanted to do. They made plays. They made plays, and then they special teams, they made even more plays. I thought that that was where the key was the inability of the Broncos to stop the special teams of the Bengals.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of special teams, was that really the biggest part of the game? I mean, it just really was back and forth, back and forth. Was that kind of what put the game over? I mean, we could talk about the interceptions, but again, there was that long punt return. There was, after the Broncos had their kick return at the beginning of the second half to get them in great field position, well, the Broncos gave up another kickoff return, for
The field
huge field position.
Well, I think you talk about flipping the field and you talk about starting field position as being keys, particularly in a tight game, and when you're consistently giving the other team a short field or even 40 yards to get there rather than 80, it makes things much more difficult because then you have an offense that isn't relying in the Bengals, that isn't relying on having to go 80 yards, so they only have to go 40, and that's certainly a much easier thing. So I think special teams was a big key that people aren't necessarily looking at this morning.
So when you have a game like that where it kind of worries you, like, gosh, I thought we were going to take that game. Does it make you worry for the next week, or no, because it's the Raiders?
I don't think you need to worry because the Broncos understand that beating the Raiders every day is key, particularly in this town. Particularly on a Monday night game or a Sunday night game at home. So I'm not worried about that. I think this is actually good because it's sort of like taking the Band-Aid or ripping off an injury. You see what you need to have fixed, and you can go and get it fixed correctly rather than just masking it and not knowing what you have until it's too late.
Okay, so it's a little wake-up call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because we're in the serious part of the season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You hit the snooze a couple times, but it is definitely it's a wake-up call, and you have to do this. And if you get the team at home, I don't think if you get the Bengals at Mile High or in Vesco Field, it's not going to. I think it's a different outcome.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
but biggest thing, if there's one thing that you could change with this team today, what would it be?
Right tackle.
Well, at least you're honest.
I mean, no, I think we have a problem. I mean, I like Vasquez as a guard. But we don't have a tackle, and it's been the problem all year. We still do not have a right tackle. He's played it better, but you saw yesterday that it was every play in the second half.
It was exposed, wasn't it?
It was exposed.
When
it was obvious.
That good. Yeah, that was just a weak spot.
And once you have that, and you know where there's a weakness that you just can't, solve it with putting a tight end in. The announcers yesterday were saying, why aren't they fixing this? And then they just can't. So that's what you're going to see.
Or they thought they had it fixed, and then they faced the Bengals. I don't know.
Well, in the third quarter, when you see it's a problem, you got to do something. You got to bring the running back over to help. We got to, move the tight end over to that side, which they did to some sides. But you got to figure out a way to sort of help, and I'm not sure they did.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could
All right.
at least chip the end.
Chipped
Darren,
in.
we're a few seconds away from tossing over to Dale for weather. Thank you, man.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Get
Happy
your shopping
holidays.
done.
Yeah, man, get it
I know.
done.
I
Get
know.
out there.
Well, I was.
Do you have to work today?
I don't.
Thrift store, anywhere. Come
So
on,
we
man.
came in
Thrift
just for
store.
this,
Yes.
folks. I like it.
I have
That's
always.
dedication.
Always.
I appreciate that.
Perfect.